Lesson number 108 is about transformations. And transformations, that just means when we move different shapes. And there's different ways that we can move shapes. In our table here, you can see we have a rotation, which just means turning a figure around a certain point. We could have a translation, which is also called a slide. It just means sliding a figure in one direction. Let's write slide under here as well, because that's another common name that we use. And a reflection is just mirroring or flipping a figure over a line. Please pause the video now to copy this table into your notes. Let's look at our first example. Here our question says, rotate the figure 90 degrees clockwise. So if we look at what's clockwise, well, a clock, remember, has 12 on top, then it would have 3 and 6 and 9. So if we're going clockwise, we must be going from the 12 to the 3 to the 6 to the 9, and the 9 to the 12. So this figure, we're going to have to move it 90 degrees clockwise. So 90 degrees clockwise, we're going to be rotating in this direction. Well, in order to rotate this 90 degrees clockwise, we can use this tool. And this tool has a rotation on it. Now, if we want to rotate it 90 degrees, let's first look at what would happen if we rotated it 180 degrees. If we rotate it 180, it would look like this. Because 180 just means it's flipping the other direction completely. So 90 degrees, that must be halfway. So 90 degrees would end up exactly like this. 90 degrees, we can see that there, because that's halfway between 0 and 180 degrees. Let's look at another problem. Describe the movement of the shapes below to get from figure 1 to figure 2. Now you can see we've got pentagons as both 1 and 2, and neither shape has been rotated at all, and neither shape has been flipped at all, but they have moved sideways. So shape 1, in order to get to shape 2, has just moved to the right. So to describe the movement of the shapes below, we've had a translation. And remember, the other thing we could say is we've had a slide. Now, translations are used all the time in animations, whether on TV like a cartoon or in a flip book where you're going from one picture to the next and it looks like the character is moving. That's just because there's many translations, sometimes with rotations and reflections, as we go through those animations or flip books. Let's look at another example. Describe the movement of the shapes below to get from figure 1 to figure 2. Well, to go from figure 1 to figure 2, you can see we've had to flip figure 1 over the top of this line. So we've had to take it and flip it upwards in order to get to figure 2. So this would be, well, you could call it a flip. But do you remember the name we had in our table? It's also called a reflection. And the line that we're reflecting over is right here, our horizontal line marked in blue. You can call it a flip or a reflection. You'll get full credit for both of those answers because they mean exactly the same thing. Lesson practice will be on page 582. Make sure you've got your notes complete, and I'll see you during our next class.